Guys, welcome back to Fromthedepths here with ChillBuilder. Today we're doing Fromthedepths playthrough on Neater on very hard difficulty using the Imperial Navy fleet. So that's kind of exciting. First off, to start the campaign, we have the starter fortress. Here what I'm doing is removing the weapons immediately and adding more constructors and mining equipment to collect resources and start off the campaign as much as possible. Early on in the campaign, every second counts because early on we're severely under-resourced compared to our opposition. Every second that's not spent collecting materials is a second wasted. So here what you can see is the resource gathering fleet. We have a bunch of these fairly cheap logistic barges. And then we have a few of the fighters, and we have some of the dropships. The role of the dropships is to move resources around, and the barges are obviously to extract the minerals we need to build our fleet. Here we're less than 10 minutes into the campaign, and I have called a council meeting. Even though there's about an hour left until the actual council meeting, I've called it as early as possible because you get better deals once the player has more material or more territory. You're seen as a greater threat to the AI, and it's less likely you'll find a good deal in terms of opponents. So here we have picked the white Flayers and lightning boots as our initial opponents, just because we get the most resources and they're fairly easy. Despite this being very hard, I don't see there's a good reason of punishing myself with this pick to make it even more difficult. Beginning our first fight with the white Flayers, they have a monastery that's still under construction that hasn't actually been finished. So here we spawn into the fight. It looks like the monastery does not have an AI, and what else they got is a Repentance cargo craft. So of all the cargo crafts in the game, I think the Repentance is one of the more dangerous ones, just because it's got a kiting mechanism where it's quite fast. It can stay far away. It's got reliable weapons. But it's no match for our frigate, and we also brought speed fighters that have very cheap units, but they have very good burst damage that can make an impact against larger opponents. Fighters carry rockets, which are missiles. They're actually guided, but they have very low turn rate and very high speed, which, visually they look like rockets, and as well as functionally. So here the Repentance have made a fairly close approach to our fleet, which is then punished by taking a lot of damage, and it's crippled fairly quickly. Now with 30 minutes into the game, as you can see, we have not captured, but we have occupied 6 resource zones. We do not actually need to capture the resource zone to be able to extract resources from them, so it's the highest priority to make sure any unoccupied or unclaimed resource zone is occupied by our forces. The initial income stream is vital to the speed of expansion of the overall war effort. So, in any minutes lost is income not maximized. We have a few more battles of just the frigate, the initial force, the frigate, the sweet fighters against some of the enemies, more Repentance and monasteries. The monasteries are extremely weak. Missiles have very limited range, and they can't punch up against more heavily armed enemies. The enemy Sand Eater is very dodgy. It's a new craft, and if we don't hit it on the first pass, then it'll take us out. Here we have a white Flare Valise, which is a very expensive ramming craft. I only knew the cost of the enemy coming in, so I brought quite a few frigates. And we have our second frigate here in this fight. And speed fighters, as you can see. Unfortunately for the Valise, is surface bound. They cannot fly, so they can't touch us. And we're able to hit it from above where it's vulnerable. We disable the thrust on this craft pretty quickly. Now it's just pretty much sitting dead in the water, waiting for our craft to pound it. Yeah, it's about the cost of 1.5 of these frigates, but it's not doing anything to us. Have a look at these glorious broadsides coming from the frigates. Okay, 47 minutes into the mission, we have captured another white flare resource zone, bringing 2 total to them, and we're about to capture 1 more. And our forces have went right up to the Gorgon, which is the white flare HQ. However, we're waiting for a bit more units to join us before we push out and destroy this faction. We have a bit of a more trouble encounter with the Repentance. As you can see, the enemy craft is fairly fast, and they're able to get away from us initially beginning the battle. So it's taking us a while to catch up. We do have good burst damage forward facing on the frigates, but it's only a small fraction of their overall firepower. So it'll take us a while to damage them. See, this is a pretty sturdily built craft. It's flying in the air with half of the craft missing. The frigates have 3 different types of weapons. It's got the forward-facing plasma. It's got the forward-facing depth guns, which are pretty much single-shot guns. You can have 4 inputs with no clips, and they can do really good burst damage, but they have very low fire rates. And then we have these broadside def guns as well. The good thing about def guns, other than the burst damage, is that they're super durable. So all of these craft are designed based on durability. Here we have our reinforcement, the destroyer. Because our fleet is very fast moving, we pull back 2 frigates to support this destroyer as well. And it's coming up against the enemy Eclipse from the Lightning Eclipse, which have finally decided to join the war. A light fighter here, I don't remember the name, but it's not doing too much to us right now. The Lightning Eclipse is quite expensive compared to our fleet, but it's a laser unit, it's quite vulnerable, and we've got overwhelming firepower. So, and it's slow, which is perfect target for our armaments that we come equipped with. As you can see, the lasers are firing, but a lot of the internal components over time get stripped away, so the damage falls off quite quickly. So laser might be firing, but the amount of damage it can do is quite limited. So our destroyer absorbed most of the attack early on from that Eclipse. They got a lucky hit on our weapon controller for the anti-air system, but you lose some, you gain some, right? And here you can see the full broadside hitting that poor little aircraft. A little bit of a rematch against the white flare craft. This one's the wrecker, but before we get too close, it gets vaporized by the rockets. Okay, we're coming up to the final battle of this episode. Our fleet so far, which is pretty much every unit you see, against the white flare HQ, the Gorgon. It's pretty much very unevenly matched, which is how I like it. I'm going for speed here because I'm up against lots of enemies. I want to get the economy up and running as quickly as possible. We're still, super small compared to the opposition in terms of economy and material reserve. This is a damaged destroyer. instead of pulling back, I decided to just go forward with it. So now I see the particle cannon firing. Maybe it could Imperial a little bit. But either way, time is of the essence here, at least for the first couple of actions. Pretty much most of the south side of the map is free money if you're able to have the right units and the speed to capitalize on it. Have our 2 frigates, I believe. Just unloading our broadsides. I see a hole in the front of that destroyer. Most of that is empty space. So contrary to all of our old designs, of my old designs at least, which are invasive Fromthedepths, this entire fleet is kind of the opposite, which is around broadsiders that are able to tank a lot of damage. So yeah, that's it for the first episode of Imperial Navy versus Niter. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you enjoy Fromthedepths, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. Thanks, bye.